guys, welcome to a new video. Apologies for the very pale face. The lighting is terrible. The makeup is a little bit too pale for me, but we're going to roll with it because it was cheap. And I decided to pair it with a really dark lip so it looks even paler. You live and you learn. But this is a recommendations video for Tomes and Treasures Round 2. Jem was very kind and did the splitting of these, so I'm going to give you 3 recommendations per prompt for this. Some of these will be interchangeable and they will appear multiple times throughout the video because you can double up. So I was like, we're gonna do the double up thing, and it made it a bit easier for me because I didn't have to think about it as much as I could have. That sounds terrible. But we're gonna go with it. The first prompt is a book with travel. I have tried to do these as diverse as possible because we could just say all of the Lord of the Rings for this, but we're not going to do that. We are going to go through it for 3 books that are slightly different to each other. So the first one we've got is Kings of the Wild. This is a play on D&D and a play on music, and it is essentially what if the band grew old, grew drunk, became like a little bit worse for wear, and then had to come back together to save someone. And this is what the book is. It's an incredible story. It's really interesting. It has a lot of humor, but it doesn't have too much heaviness. So it's a very light-hearted book, but with that really high fantasy, and it pairs it really well. It's such a good book. I really recommend reading it. The next book is The Martian. This is about our main character, whose name has completely escaped me, so I do apologise. But he is stranded on Mars, and he travels to Mars, so I'm saying that it works. So he travels to Mars, he gets stranded there, and he has to learn how to deal whilst things are going wrong. It's a really compelling book. It's really fun. It's really funny. I really recommend if you're reading it and you're an audiobook listener, listen to the audiobook because Will Wheaton is phenomenal in the audiobook. He just has this really dry sense of humour that is just fantastic. Really good book. The last book that I'm going to talk about for the book with travel is Delilah Green Doesn't Care. This is a bit of a stretch, but we love stretching prompts, so it's fine. But Delilah Green Doesn't Care starts with Delilah in New York, and she travels home to photograph her sister's wedding. And from there she meets her sister's best friend, and they kind of hit it off, and that's all I'm going to say. It is an incredible book. It's so good. I love a sapphic romance. What else can you say? The next prompt that I have is a short book, and the first one that I'm going to pick for this is How You Lose the Time War. This is very short. It's very compelling. It's so beautifully done. It is all done through letters. It's half letters, half not, but it is about 2 time travelers on the other side of a war who communicate. And that's all I'm going to say. I don't think that you need to say much else. It is such a beautiful story. It is better if you go in not knowing much, but absolutely phenomenal. Really good book. The next book that I'm going to talk about, or books, is the Wayward Children series by Seanan McGuire. This is Every Heart a Doorway is the first one, and these are all really short books, and they're really good. It is kids who have gone through portal worlds and realms, and they end up like coming back and having to figure out how to deal with life, and each of the books takes place with a different character or characters, and there are different ways to do this. I don't really want to go into too much detail about these, but there is a lot of different things. These were widely popular a couple of years ago, and I kind of gave up on this series just because I got distracted, but actually I think I need to go back in and reread them because I really enjoyed them. And I do have one that I have not read, and I want the rest of them in hardback because I was really enjoying these books. So this might be one of my picks for my TBR. The next book I'm going to talk about is a graphic novel. I don't care that might not be classed as a short book. It's going to be, and I'm going to talk about the Critical Role Vox Machina Origins. Look, you don't need to like D&D, you don't need to like Critical Role. This is just a fun, kooky, fun way of doing things. And I really enjoy it. And I'm really excited for them to finally bring out Volume 4. And yeah. The next prompt is Animal Companion. The first book is The Phoenix Keeper. Me and Becca read this not long ago. It is really, really cute. It is about a magical, like it's like a magical realism world. It is where you have all of the magic creatures, and our main character is a zoologist or a zookeeper, and she is trying to get back the breeding program for the phoenixes, and it goes from there. It is very cute, it is very fun, it is very strange. The main character is definitely autistic as well, and she's just phenomenal. I will say, please be aware that this relies heavily on anxiety, and there is a lot of it in there, and it did make me feel really, really uncomfortable in the way that I felt like very seen in my anxiety. So just be aware of that when you go into it. But it's a very, very cute book, and I do recommend it. The next book is, we're not surprised, I'm going to talk about another Critical Role thing. It's Kith and Kin. So Kith and Kin is a backstory for two of our characters, Vex and Vax, who are twins, and it kind of tells their story of like how they grew up and how they became who they are. And Vex has a pet bear. He's called Trinket. He's very cute. The final book I'm going to talk about is Nevernight by J. Kristoff. Now, this is not a surprising book. I love this book. It's also something that most people have read, or they aren't going to read because they have problems with the author or they have problems with the book, which is entirely your right. Absolutely. Read what you want to read. However, there is a shadow cat called Mr. Kindly, and that's an animal companion if I ever did know of one. So I'm going with it. The next prompt I have is epistolary, and this is where we start to see some overlap. I wanted to do overlap because we can double up, so this is great. The first book that we are going to be talking about is This Is How You Lose the Time War. I said about this is a book where most of them is told in letters, and that fits for epistolary, in my opinion. We also are going to be very, very, very like loose on the rules here. If there's one letter in and you want to class that, please class that. Like, we're not going for super heavy or anything like that. So This Is How You Lose the Time War. The second book that we're going to be talking about is The Martian. Now, this is a stretch. This is a massive, massive, massive stretch. However, the guy is essentially doing a journal. He might be voice recording it. He might be writing it down, but he is basically writing a journal. And journals and diaries can often come in letter form. So we are classing this as letters to himself or letters to whoever finds it. It is something to show what he's been up to. And because of that, we're classing it as epistolary. Yes, I know it is a massive stretch. Like, this is ridiculous. But I wanted to do this one again, and I just thought it would be an interesting stretch for it. So we're going with it. Also, double up. Best thing to do. The final book is once more a stretch, and this is the Illuminae Files. So I was thinking about this because I couldn't think of a third book, because I don't read a lot of epistolary apart from like classics, and I didn't want to recommend a classic. I'm not massive on classics anyway, so I was trying to think about it, and I was like, what could I do for this one? And then I remembered Illuminae is mixed media. It is chat logs, and it is emails, and it is security footage and things like that. And emails are forms of letters. It's electronic mail. Therefore, that counts as a letter. Yeah, I know I'm stretching it. I know, you don't have to tell me. Look, epistolary sounded great, and then you start to realise, like, oh, actually, I don't read a lot of books that are just told in letters, and so you have to improvise. The next prompt is sci-fi or science-y. we're going to talk about The Martian. The guy is stuck on Mars. That you can't get much more sciencey than that. The next one I've picked is The Phoenix Keeper. So whilst I know that this isn't technically sciencey, the way that she comes off is more like science. Like it's a science major. It is going and learning how to become a zoologist. Like, science. Yes, it's magical creature science, but it's still science in my head. And the final one, I would be a terrible girlfriend if I did not recommend my girlfriend's favourite book, which is The Love Hypothesis. This is a romance series which follows a new couple every single time, and it is all about your new women in STEM and them falling in love, and it is very cute, and I enjoy them, but they're very, very sciencey, so it works for the prompt. The next prompt is a book with healers. Can be modern, can be fantasy, can be anything. I picked 3 different books for this, obviously. I picked Get Like Chloe Brown. So this book is, I feel like she does a lot of healing in this book. This isn't my favourite book or my favourite series, but obviously we have Chloe Brown, who has a chronic illness, and she is struggling, and she's trying to come to terms with that, and she kind of heals in a way that is different. And I think that you can get healing in a lot of different ways. Is this a stretch? Yes, it is. We've established by now, we don't mind a stretch. We love a stretch. The next book I've picked for this prompt is City of Brass. So we are following our main character, who is she's kind of a healer. She can feel healing in people's bones, so she knows that something's wrong. She doesn't always help them. She's a bit of a con artist, but you know. And she is on the streets of Cairo, and things happen, and she ends up summoning a djinn and goes on an adventure. And I don't really want to say much else, but there is definitely healers in this. It's a very, very cool book. I need to finish this series, actually, because I've only read the first 2. And I meant to read the third one a while ago, but I was not into it, in the sense of my brain was just too full of high fantasy, so I need to kind of go back to that and pick that up. Our next book is Swordcatcher. So I was trying to figure this out, and then this one came to me. So Swordcatcher, you follow 2 people. You follow essentially the guy who is a body double for the prince, and you follow this girl who just wants to be a healer, and their paths cross, and there's a lot of things going here, there and everywhere, and I don't really want to go into too much detail because I don't know what's in the back of that book, and I don't want to spoil it. But she's a healer. It's a lot of healing, so this definitely works. The next prompt that I'm doing is Portal Fantasy, and I thought this was going to be a lot more difficult than it was, and then I realised it actually isn't. So, Every Heart a Doorway. Kids who go through portals and go into a different world. Portal Fantasy, if ever I did hear of it. Also works for short books, so great, amazing. We have some things that can double up. The next one, technically, I don't know if it's like exactly, but we're going to go with it. This is How You Lose the Time War. They go through portals to go to different times. In my head, that's how it works. It might not be exactly the way, but that's how I see it. And the final book I'm going to talk about is The Space Between Worlds. This is about a character who, the more you have died in other worlds, the better it is to world jump. So if you have died in like 6 worlds, you can go into all of those 6 worlds. But if you haven't died, you can't go into that world. And our character has died in so many of them that she can jump into these worlds very, very easily. And so she does. And there's a lot else going on, but I don't want to go into it. It's a really, really good book. It was one of the first Illum crates I got, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's also sapphic. We gotta love that. The final prompt that I have for you is a book with maps. I'm going to say whatever fantasy you want to read, but that feels a bit blah. So we are going to go with Illuminate, the Illuminate files. This, again, cop out, but mixed media. At some point, there will be a map of something on this. Might not be a good map, but it'll show you something about the world. So, map. The second book I'm going to recommend is An Ember in the Ashes. So An Ember in the Ashes is a phenomenal book series that I need to finish. I've read the first two and I've not read the last one. But this book is about two main characters, one who is in a military school and one who has just recently lost her brother. He has been arrested. She needs to find a way to save him. He needs to find a way out, and they work together, and that's all I'm going to say. There's a lot going on. It's phenomenal. It's very, very brutal for a YA. It's really, really good. I really recommend this book. The last book I'm going to recommend, again, I'm doing this mainly because doubled up points. Look, make it as easy as you can for yourself, unless you don't want to. If you want to do a prompt for each book, who am I to stop you? But you know, but I'm going to go for Nevernight by J. Kristoff. Again, has a lovely, lovely map. Most fantasy books have maps. They are incredible. Map designers are fantastic. Let's go. And that is my recommendations video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Apologies, it's felt a little bit all over the place. I think that's because I haven't done a sit down video in a very long time. And last time that, well, apart from the announcement, which was just me sitting and going, hi, we're doing a video. We're doing a readathon. Bye. So I didn't have to think. So it's been a bit different to kind of sit and think of books to recommend. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let us know. I hope that you join the readathon because we have put so much effort into it and we are really, really enjoying it. So